Welcome to another video by me, the Witcher George. Today I'm going to talk about the School of the Viper. So, I want to begin this video by talking about the origins, as far as we know, of the School of the Viper, their location, and then we'll move on to their members, then we'll move on to individual stories of their members, and then we'll move on to their effects in the games. As in, what members of that school have affected in the games, because as we know, the School of the Viper wasn't an original school made by Andrzej Sapkowski. It was actually made by CD Projekt Red as I suppose you could say a bit of a plot device for The Witcher 2, but also just because it's a pretty good idea to have a slightly more, I wouldn't say it's an evil Witcher school, but it's certainly presented that way in The Witcher 2, and I suppose you could say slightly 3, compared to, say, the School of the Wolf. So, at one point in The Witcher 2, Letho of Kingslayer actually says that he believes the entire reason the School of the Viper was founded was to explore the phenomenon of the Wild Hunt. They had the biggest catalogue of information on the Wild Hunt out of any of the other Witcher schools, or most likely any of the institutes within the Witcher universe. So it's believed, at least just judging that Letho's own interpretation or theory, is that the entire reason for that school's existence is to work out what the hell the Wild Hunt is. Because it's known that they had extensive knowledge on the Wild Hunt. They had many books, and in fact, if you've played The Witcher 2, you'll know Letho was actually the reason Geralt was able to find the Wild Hunt at Hangman's Tree. Well, not just Letho, his brothers, Aukes and Serrit as well. Well, not actual brothers, but you know what I mean. However, funnily enough, Aukes and Serrit are brothers. So that's just one theory you can have for why this school exists. You could also come up with a vast amount of other theories, but let's just say that that's why they were created. Just for the purpose of this video. I mean, it's completely plausible that they were made as a way for, you know, the same reason the School of the Wolf was made, to deal with the monster threat that, well, the threat that monsters pose to humans. Which is probably one of the reasons they were founded, like any Witcher school, but we can assume that the main reason was to deal with the Wild Hunt. Well, or to work out what the hell it is. So, a lot of you may be wondering, where is the School of the Viper from? We know that the School of the Wolf is in the north, you know, Kaer Morhen, but where's the School of the Viper? Well, before its destruction, when it fell to ruins, it was one of the southern schools of The Witcher, where present-day Nilfgaard actually is. Because as we know, it was there before Nilfgaard had taken over, but it's not there anymore. I mean, the entire reason that The Witcher 2 happened, you know, Letho and the rest of his Witcher buddies from the School of the Viper were assassinating kings, is because not only were they promised freedom by the Emperor, but also that he would remake their school. If they killed all the Northern Kings, so it'd be easier to invade. So next I want to move on to the the known members of the School of the Viper that are still, well, they're not all alive, but that we know of. So, I'll list their names, then I'm going to each individual character that we know of so far. So there's Letho of Kingslayer, Aukes, Serrit, the unknown Witcher from the Witcher outro, two unnamed Witchers mentioned by Letho in his final conversation with Geralt, Kolgrim, a Witcher who died trying to clear his name of a kidnapping. Ivar, Evil Eye, leader of the Viper School. That's got to be some sort of reference to the idea that if you're born with the snake symbol in your eye, you're going to be evil. Like if you've seen Vikings, I believe it was Ivar that was born with that. Okay, so I want to go in ascending order of importance to the games, I suppose, or importance of known. So I'm going to end with Letho, and everybody else is just going to be in an order that I'll choose. So to begin with, I want to go over the mysterious assassin that we can assume was from the School of the Viper, just because at the end of The Witcher 1, he tries to assassinate Foltest, and we know that that's what the School of the Viper's job was. So I'm hopefully going to be able to play the clip of when this happens.
Temeria and Redania are allies, thanks in no small part to you. For your toil, a worthy pouch of gold.
Your Highness. Master. Farewell, sire.
just as a little bit of a backstory, Geralt was in the process of receiving his reward for destroying the Salamandra and removing Jacques de Aldersberg from power. He was in the castle when he noticed that the assassin was making his move. An intense sword fight played out between the two, as the mysterious assassin was really good using 2 swords at once, but then Geralt killed him. So we can assume that this school, the Viper, must have become friends with Aukes, Serrit and Letho, and as we know, they later on tried to bring back glory to their school. We can assume that he must have been born somewhere in the Nilfgaardian Empire, and in the south, as how else would he have become a Witcher of that school? We can also assume that he was part of the... Okay, I'm going to have to give you a little bit of information here, because some of you might not know what this is. But Geralt, after Yennefer was taken by the Wild Hunt from the island, you know, because if you read the full Witcher books, you know where it ends, but then the games pick up after that. After Yennefer was taken from the island, and Geralt wanted to find her, he spent a long time looking for the Wild Hunt, ran into the Witchers after he saved Letho's life, well, the School of the Viper Witchers, and then they all went and tracked down the Wild Hunt, well, because the School of the Viper have extensive knowledge on the Wild Hunt. They found them at Hangman's Tree, a battle ensued, Geralt exchanged his soul for Yennefer's, Wild Hunt left, and Yennefer was left with the School of the Viper Witches. They were then captured at some point by the Nilfgaardian Empire. Yennefer was constantly trying to seduce each member of the School of the Viper to try and get them to turn on each other. They got to Nilfgaard, the Emperor made Yennefer his court sorceress, she also had a bit of amnesia, and the School of the Viper were sent to go and destroy the Northern Kings. But it was never the Emperor's intention to let them remake the School of the Viper, he always planned to kill them, because can't let people know that he was the one that assassinated Northern Kings. I have no idea why, but apparently so. So that's a little bit of backstory there. And we can assume that this mysterious assassin was part of the crew with Aukes, Serrit and Letho and Yennefer. So immediately after his death, he was searched thorough by the royal medics in the palace until they decided to pass his body on to Triss Merigold. She did an autopsy and learned that he could see in the dark and his age couldn't be identified. He didn't wear any medallions, but he was clearly a Witcher. She kept it a secret, and you can choose either to tell King Foltest yourself in The Witcher 2 or not. Doesn't really matter, he dies by Letho very soon after. So that's about as much as we know of that Witcher so far, the mysterious assassin. He was just a mysterious assassin that happened to know Aukes, Letho and Serrit. So let's have a quick look at Ivar Evil Eye. Very, very little is known about him, but he is the leader of the School of the Viper. So he is, as we know, a master witcher. There is only one mention of him in the games, and that is by an unsent letter found by Geralt of Rivia mentioning his name, which Geralt finds on the remains of the witcher Kolgrim, another member of the school. So that's a perfect segue to talk about Kolgrim. So Kolgrim was another witcher of the School of the Viper, and he was tasked with finding lost weapon diagrams that once belonged to his order, which, as we know, is possessed by, I can't remember her name, that woman in the auction house in Hearts of Stone. Eventually, Kolgrim did manage to actually find the diagrams, but ran into unexpected problems on his way back to his school's keep. So this is an ancient witcher. This is before the School of Viper was destroyed, I imagine. So Kolgrim stayed in White Orchard, where he planned to stay for one night before leaving. But he was suspected to have kidnapped a person named Viti, the son of a local beekeeper. The accusations proved false, but the peasants forced Kolgrim to visit the local lordling, Sir Ignatius Veris. He decided instead to have a trial by ordeal, as he didn't expect that the lordling would give him a fair trial, but his trial was to cleanse the local crypt from the spirits residing in it. So the Witcher, he went to this crypt, he died, which is where you find his remains, but then soon after his death, the villagers discovered that the boy was actually killed by a drowner. So when Geralt goes and he finds Kolgrim's body, he discovers that there's actually a sword diagram on him and a journal where he learns of his identity. So that's about as much as we know of Kolgrim. So now we're going to get onto the main members of the School of the Viper that we know, Aukes, Serrit and Letho. So getting onto Aukes, as we know, he was part of the main crew, the main four, which, if you can include the mysterious assassin. He was present throughout everything I've said before, as in everything that I said about the Wild Hunt and Geralt coming asking them for help, etc. So now I'm going to move on to what happens in The Witcher 2 with Aukes, because as we know, we already know his past. It's basically the same as Letho and Serrit's, and, you know, the mysterious assassin. So Letho gives Aukes Demavand's head, and if you saw Demavand, he was the one that got killed on the boat at the start, I believe, and he gives Aukes his head. Letho wants him to give it to Sela de Transaville to receive coin and further orders. So next, Aukes and his brother Serrit attempted to kill Hensel, which if you side with Roach, you actually get to meet them. So they make a base in the network of caves near the Kedwenny camp, which if you've played The Witcher 2, you actually get to explore through, which is quite interesting. So the day of the strike, they clear some harpies outside the cave and proceed to meet with Letho. After a short conversation, they discover the presence of the White Wolf in the Kedweni camp, and as their next move, they set out on their mission. They use this time to discuss the events that were to go down at Lochmuin. So, after Serrit and Aukes attempted to kill Hensel, Geralt arrived, killed Aukes. Deathmold used Hanmarvin's Blue Dream, which is a necromantic ritual, to experience the memory of Aukes, and Serrit ran away and hid. And that's the end of Aukes. So, moving on to Serrit. What happened to him? So after the fight, Serrit ran off, and he escaped back to their hideout. But it was to no avail, for Sela tracked Serrit down and killed him. And, well, not just killed him, gave him a painful death. Geralt found him while he was on the Kingslayer's trail, and managed to find him still alive, but dying. With his dying breath, Serrit confirmed Geralt's suspicions about Sela's involvement, and offered an apology for leaving him behind at Hangman's Tree. After that, he started to think of how close they were to vanquishing the Wild Hunt and freeing the world from the omen of war. Serrit died to his wounds shortly after, but at least he was in the company of an old friend, Geralt. I mean, Serrit and Aukes did not live to see that the Emperor actually turned his back on them and didn't keep his word, which is, I suppose, a slight win for them, because they didn't have to see that. So if you choose the Orveth's path, you might be thinking, well, surely none of this happens. Geralt couldn't have killed them. I mean, he wouldn't have been there. But what happens if you choose the Orveth's path in the journal is that Aukes and Serrit try and cover Letho's escape, and Sela kills them both. So they die either way. And now we move on to the final Witcher. The most famous of probably all of the School of the Viper, at least in the player's eyes, Letho of Gullet, the Kingslayer. As we know, he's the main antagonist of The Witcher 2 Assassin of Kings. His closest associates are Aukes and Serrit, also Kingslayers from The Witcher School of the Viper. He enlists the help of Iorveth and the Scoia'tael to aid him in his plan to kill the kings of the Northern Kingdoms. To back his claim, he shows Iorveth the head that belongs to King Demavand, King of Edirn, and Sovereign of the Pontar Valley, which, if you saw in the starting clip, Letho cut off his head. So I'm not going to go over the whole story of The Witcher 2 and why Letho did this, because if you've played the games, you'll know. And if you haven't played the games, you really should, and then come back and watch this video, because that game is amazing. So what I wanted to talk about was the talk at the end, and what you might be thinking is, did Letho die or did he live? Well, that depends on the player, which is what makes the Witcher games so great. So at the end of The Witcher 2, you as the player get the choice, do you want to kill Letho or let him live? And I chose to let him live, just because I thought, you know what, he's really been kind of tricked into this in a way. It's not really his fault. Geralt's neutral anyway, and witches look out for each other on the path. He didn't really screw over Geralt that much, and it was never really his intention. And if you let him live, he actually comes back in The Witcher 3. So what's Letho's origin? Who is he? Well, we can assume that he was like any child. Well, any child that's been taken in by the witches. He probably would have had some father or mother that just gave him up to the witches. Maybe not purposefully, but they might have said, you know, you can have whatever you want, which is a bad thing to say to a witcher. So Letho is the lead, well, the lead of at least Aukes and Serrit and the Mysterious Assassin. He is the lead Witcher School of the Viper, at least out of them. So yeah, that's, I mean, we can assume that he is just an orphan, you know, that's been taken in, or something along those lines. He is the Kingslayer. He killed Foltest and Demavand, which is, as I've already said. And the final thing I want to talk about is just his effect in The Witcher 3. So if you let him live, not much is really affected overall, because either way, Nilfgaard takes over the north, and, well, as you know in The Witcher 3, a lot of shit happens. So if you want to know how to meet Letho, if you try and do the quest, which is a Witcher contract for the Fall of House Rearden, and then if you do the quest Ghost of the Past, which is Letho's quest you get from that, and then he can actually be part of the Battle of Kaer Morhen, which is an awesome scene, and I will try and put it up on screen.
Geralt!
Head back.
you don't send Letho to Kaer Morhen, he'll talk about possibly going to Zerrikania instead, so we can assume that he must have gone to Zerrikania if he doesn't go to Kaer Morhen with you. So you can actually have a really cool conversation with Letho in The Witcher 3, and you can, if you look at him actually, you can see that he does wear the snake medallion, which is a pretty cool Witcher medallion. So because obviously the big part of the Battle of Kaer Morhen is that you're waiting for the Wild Hunt to come, you and Letho actually talk about your previous encounter in much more detail, which is a pretty cool bit. Lambert and Eskel are pretty, let's just say they're unsure about Letho's motives. But Geralt assures them that he's a Witcher and he's one of us. He then joins Geralt and Lambert on their hunting party against the Hunt, and he is pretty helpful, as you'll see hopefully from the clip I put on screen. So yeah, that's about as much as we know about Letho. And with that basically brings the end to my School of Viper video. I've told you everything that I know. Their choice of weapons is pretty similar to any Witcher. Some of them use one, like Letho uses a heavy sword. I think, well, a lot of them use dual wield, I suppose you could say. I mean, that seems to be a prominent sort of weapon choice. So yeah, that's the end of my School of the Viper video. This has been a much longer one, but I assure you it won't be nearly as long as the School of the Wolf one will turn out to be. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Be sure to subscribe if you're new. It's always awesome to see new subscribers join the channel, because I just think that is more people to talk to The Witcher about. And I always look forward to comments, so be sure to comment your ideas and tell me what you think of the School of the Viper, your favourite school or your school of choice. For me personally, I have no idea what my school of the choice is for The Witcher, because obviously School of the Wolf is amazing. I've always loved wolves, they're cool, but School of the Griffin is The Witcher George, and I really like the School of the Griffin too. The School of the Bear, in my opinion, has the best armor. I love it, so it's a really difficult choice for me. But anyway, I'd love to hear your guys' choices. My next video should either be on School of the Manticore or School of the Bear. I'd really like to do one on the School of the Bear, but anyway, I will see you all later. Have an awesome time, guys, and be sure to like for more content like this and subscribe for more videos. See ya.